Lisa Lavery, and I head up culinary development at FoodSmart. I'm here today to talk to you all about braising. Braising is a traditional style of cooking where you take less tender cuts of meat and cook them slow and low so that they become really flavorful and falling off the bone. There's really just a few simple steps to follow to create the perfect braise, and once you're comfortable doing that, you will be braising everything from chicken, beef, pork, to hearty vegetables like carrots and leeks, and cooking greens like kale. So are you ready to learn all about braising? Let's get started. So before you get cooking, you're going to need the right tools. So let's take a look at what you're going to need in your kitchen to get started. So you'll need a deep, heavy bottom pot like this one that has a tight-fitting lid to put your braise in. And next you're going to need some long tongs. I like this brand because it just pops open when you push down. That's for turning and searing your meat or veggies. And then you'll need a wooden spoon. I like this one because it has a flat edge, and that way you can scrape up all the brown bits from the bottom of the heavy bottom pot. All right, now that we've got our tools figured out, let's see what we're going to need from our pantry to make the perfect braise. You'll need some items from your pantry, like some good olive oil for searing your meat or veggies, aromatics like a yellow onion or shallot, and then some garlic. And then to deglaze your pan, red or white wine works really well, or you can use just chicken stock or water. Bay leaves are really nice to tuck into the liquid while it's simmering away. And parsley is a great addition at the end just for some bright, clean flavor. Okay, so let's get to braising. Here's our nice heavy bottom pot. I like this oval size for cuts of meat. Add some olive oil in an even layer. Heat it over medium heat until it's shimmering. And then to this pot, we're going to add our chicken thighs. And I like to use bone-in chicken thighs just because it's more forgiving. The bone actually adds extra flavor while you're cooking it. And chicken thighs can really take a long braise, and they really need it to get tender and delicious. So add them in a single layer. Make sure you're not crowding the pot. If you put too many chicken thighs in at once, or cuts of meat in at once, they'll steam instead of browning. And so what you really want here, when you flip it over, is a nice golden brown crust. And if it's sticking to the pot, just give it a couple extra minutes and it will release itself when it's ready for you to flip it over. Definitely work in batches if you need to, so you're not crowding the pan. So after we've removed the chicken thighs from the Dutch oven and set those aside, we're going to cook our aromatics. So here we've got some yellow onion in a large dice. We're going to saute that in the olive oil and move it around the pan. You want to stir it pretty frequently and break it up so that it cooks evenly. And if you look underneath, you can see that dark brown crust. That is called fond. That's the classic flavoring of a braise. When you're browning the vegetables or meat and you remove them from the pan, and you can see all of that flavor that's just baking down in the bottom of the Dutch oven. So you can see our onions are softening. Now we're going to add our more aromatics, some garlic, and a little bit of fennel seed. That gives it a great Mediterranean flavor. And you really just want to cook the garlic and the spices until you can smell them in the air. Garlic cooks really quickly, and we want to make sure that it doesn't burn. And there you can see more of that delicious fond. So now it's time to add our liquid to scrape up all of that delicious flavor off the bottom. So here I'm using white wine. Red wine works great for darker cuts of meat like dark meat chicken or steak, or if you're using pork. White wine is great here because it's a little bit of a lighter flavor. And you can see I'm using that wooden spoon to really scrape up all of those brown bits and incorporate them into the liquid that's going to be used for our braise. So next we're going to add some canned whole tomatoes with the juices. Just pour the whole can in there. I like using whole peeled tomatoes. They just give more texture and a really great flavor. So once you add them to the pot, I use again the back of that wooden spoon just to break up the tomatoes a bit. You can also use kitchen scissors if you have them, just to give them a little bit of rusticity, and texture helps them break down a little bit more as they're simmering away in our braise. Next, we're gonna tuck a bay leaf in. That gives really nice, verdant, herby flavor to the braise. And then we're ready to put our chicken pieces back in. I like to nestle them down into the liquid. And the key to a really great braise is that you want the item that you're braising to be about halfway submerged. You don't want them to be completely covered, because then essentially you're just boiling the protein, and you don't want to do that, because you want to make sure the liquid reduces enough and that the top of the piece of meat or vegetable that you're braising has time to get nice and brown and caramelized. Right, you want to bring the liquid back up to a simmer, and once it's bubbling, you want to take that nice heavy fitting lid and put it right on top. You can either put this in the stove at 350 degrees or just let it bubble away. And let's take a look at that delicious braise. Perfectly done. Sprinkle a little parsley on top. This wine and tomato braised chicken would be delicious over some creamy polenta or next to a leafy green salad. All right, so now that we've seen the classic technique of braising, let's see how that works with a couple different types of vegetables. Here I've got some leeks that I've sliced, and I'm sauteing them in a shallow carbon steel pan. You don't need a big Dutch oven for this because we're just doing leeks, no protein or anything. So they're nice and golden brown. I flipped them over. And then to the leeks, we're going to add some white wine. So you want to make sure that all of the leeks are submerged. Really move it around in the pan. You can see it's bubbling up there. Feel free to add water if you need to get it to be halfway up the pan, and bring that to a lively simmer. So after the leeks have had a chance to cook, a little Parmesan cheese on top, and then I'm going to pop this pan in the broiler just so the leeks can get fully caramelized, nice and soft, golden brown Parmesan cheese. Off they go. And here we have our finished leeks. Really, really delicious. You could serve this with pasta. You could have it on toast. Just a really, really awesome way to make leeks, and super simple. Next, let's talk cooking greens. Here I've got some kale that I chopped up, a little bit of olive oil in this smaller round Dutch oven. Just sauteing these until they get nice and bright green, and as they wilt, you can put more on top. This was about 2 bunches. Now this recipe is super simple. There's no chopping involved. You're just adding some store-bought salsa. Already has the onions and the flavoring in it, and you can choose how hot you want it to be. So about a cup of salsa, add that in. And then just to make sure that the liquid comes up enough, you're gonna add about half a cup of water. May need a little bit more, a little bit less, depending on the size of your pan. Make sure to give that a good stir, again, using my tongs there just to make sure that the flavors are all throughout the kale. And then once that's done, put on your tight-fitting lid, and you can let this simmer away on the stovetop until the greens are tender and delicious. So let's see. So these have had a chance to bubble away for a little while. If you want them softer, you can let them go a little bit longer. You want most of the liquid to be absorbed. And then to any good braise, you want to add something fresh and bright at the end to contrast with that really, really savory flavor of the braise. So here I had a little bit of feta cheese, so I crumbled it up and put it on top. Cotija is another great option. That's a traditional Mexican cheese. And you've got a really simple side dish with little effort and no chopping. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed today's Cooking 101 lesson, and we hope you head on over to FoodSmart, browse the braising recipes, and create some delicious meals of your own. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.